Well, welcome back to another episode of the Partnernomics Show. Man, I enjoyed a conversation that I had with Jim Bramlett. So, Jim is a Vistage Chair, actually here in the Kansas City market where I live. Jim has a fascinating background. I had the opportunity to meet him a while back and meet face to face, which is great to do. We don't always get to do these days. But Jim has written a couple different books. He's actually started 7 different companies. So, certainly has some battle scars that he's learned along the way, but the awesome thing now is he's leading different CEO peer groups to not only share what he has done, what he's learned throughout his career, but also facilitating conversations within these peer groups so CEOs can learn from each other. So certainly enjoyed getting to know Jim and looking forward to having him share some of his insights with you. So here we go.
Welcome to the Partnernomics Show, where industry thought leaders discuss the hottest topics in partnerships, ecosystems, and innovation.
Welcome back to another episode of the Partnernomics Show. Great to be with you today. Today we are joined by Jim Bramlett. So Jim is a fellow Lee Summit or Kansas City, at least a
Is it?
Kansas City guy that I had the opportunity to recently meet. And Jim is, well, he has an awesome background. I love him. Serial entrepreneur. Love people that have started multiple businesses and help folks do that. But he's also a Vistage chair. So we'll be talking a little bit about Vistage if you're not familiar with them. And he's launched a book that I'm fascinated by. I cheat, I do the audio version, but crank through that. And there's some great insights in there. But Jim, how you doing? It's great to see you again.
Mark, I'm outstanding. Thank you for having me. I'm excited about being on your show.
Well, I've enjoyed the opportunity to get to know you more recently as we've connected. I'm a big fan of Vistage, as we've talked about. So certainly looking forward to having you share some more about that with the listeners. But yeah, definitely appreciate your time here. Jim, how many businesses have you started?
Over my career, I've started 7, 4 for myself, 3 for others that I worked for, and learned a lot of lessons along that trail for sure. The first 2 were massive failures, but learning points and big learning points that really led me to where, publishing my 2 books. Lessons learned there, and I think I've got a pretty interesting formula now that I did not follow early on.
Yeah, well, Partnernomics is business number 6 for me, but I've been running this one for 10 years. But yeah, I love whenever people say, it's not a failure if you learn from it. Well, I've had a couple expensive lessons, myself, and certainly I think we learn more from the failures than we do the successes. But well, it's awesome that you're now spending a lot of your time coaching and mentoring and working with business leaders and business owners, doing that as a Vistage chair. We had talked about, I had the opportunity to meet some Vistage chairs and do some presentations as I was launching Partnernomics. And man, just so cool to meet these folks. But I guess let's start off by talking about like what is Vistage? What does it mean to be a Vistage chair? And then who's kind of a fit to join a program
Yeah,
like that?
sure. Vistage has been around for over 65 years. I operate in 40 countries, uh, 45,000 members worldwide, 20,000 here in the U.S. We are the world's largest business leader peer group organization. So with those 45,000, they basically break into groups, somewhere between 12 and 18 business leaders, non-competitors, and we form as a team to help each other become more successful as leaders and as businesses. It's part educational and part advisory board. That's so a meeting's going to have, you're going to learn something at every meeting. You bring in a speaker and do a 3-hour highly interactive workshop, and then in the afternoon, it's all about advisory board. What challenges does everybody face? And then with all the different experience and perspectives and knowledge around the table, we're able to help each other overcome those challenges. That's what it's all about. It is a true advisory board, not just a business card. Oh, I know this, I'll refer you. It's a true advisory board, and we're all in it to help each other.
Yeah, I love the framework of it. We've all heard of like having advisory boards and those things, but so many times we have people on our boards that aren't necessarily in the trenches or doing the things that we are, right? So it's all about perspective and If you're working your butt off to meet payroll and have some new stresses, or there's new products to be launched, there's a whole new whole new world of perspective that folks bring whenever they come in at in these different groups. So I've seen and heard the power that comes in those. So I'm a huge believer in that. How long have you been doing that with Vistage?
I've been doing Vistage 2.5 years now.
Awesome.
Um, yeah, I basically retired, flunked retirement. I, my wife kind of pressured me into, because she retired long before I did, and she pressured me, and I did. And for 3 months, I played pickleball, golf, and tennis, and there's no purpose in that. And I've got to have purpose. Unfortunately, Vistage got a hold of me. Well, I'd never heard of them. And they told me what they were all about, and it really resonated with me because I started a company back in 1999, my first where I had a real board. I had investors. I had, 40 employees that I had this huge responsibility. Well, I'd never been that kind of leader before. I was the visionary. And I learned you don't take all your issues to the board because they'll just go, we don't have the right person in the chair. And so it was a real struggle, real challenge for me. I wish I'd have known about peer groups back then. So when they talk to me about that, I go, man, if I can help any other leader avoid any problem or challenge, that's going to give me purpose. And after spending 40 plus years in the transportation and logistics industry, this is the best thing I've ever done. I have more fun. I'm a business nerd. I love learning about all these businesses, how they work, what their challenges are, and I just love that. And but I'm not the guy who wakes up at 3 a.m. in the morning in a cold sweat, worried about payroll, like you said.
That's that's awesome. That's awesome. So Jim, let's talk about your book. I want to dig in. I want to pull some of those nuggets out of your brain, have you share them with us. Tell us a little bit about the book that you wrote and why you wrote it, and what are some of the big takeaways?
Sure. Well, the first book I wrote was 5 years ago called The Unconventional Thinking of Dominant Companies. And I studied the companies like Amazon, Netflix, Uber, for those who are familiar in Kansas City, Nebraska Furniture Mart, Quick Trip, and why do they dominate their space? And I believe they follow a formula. It may not be so intentional on them, but they definitely follow this. And so then the second book, which was a year ago, called Stop the Hassle, I translated it into what every business can and should be doing if they want to grow organically. And it's part product centric and it's part culture. And the product centric is this. I listen to a lot of entrepreneurs and leaders, and oh yeah, we provide value. We're solving a problem. We're fulfilling an unmet need, but they don't go any deeper than that. And I believe the value is this: we buyers, we have four major criteria by which we make a decision. Number one is convenience. We're looking to save time and effort, and we're looking for simplicity and ease. We don't want more complexity in our life. Okay, so that's number one. Number two is price. Yes, we want to save money, but we don't always jump to the low cost solution. But we really want pricing transparency. In other words, we want to know what we're spending before we pull the trigger on a purchase. And for those of you who deal in airlines and Vegas hotels with resort fees and attorneys that are just per hour, you don't know any hour, that's a little bit frustrating for buyers. Number three is the buyer and product experience. We want to be treated like we're the only customer. We're important. We want to be respected. We want professionalism on the other end. We want them to commit to what they promise. And we want to feel better than we felt before we made that purchase. So, and user experience is really tied directly to the industry or business you're in. And then the fourth is trustworthiness. Okay, so if I haven't bought from you before, how do I know I'm going to get what I perceive I'm going to get? Because every time you make a purchase, you have a perception of what it is you're supposed to get, and if there's a brand promise, even multiplied. And so, do you have guarantees, warranties? What's your return process? Do you have testimonials? Because guess what? I'm going to believe my peers more than I believe William Shatner. And and then, how long have you been in business? And have you won any awards? And are you a specialist? Because if you're a specialist, there's something in my brain that says, oh, you probably know what you're doing. And that builds trust. So when you can deliver on all four, convenience, competitive pricing, transparent pricing, along with user experience and trust, I really don't have an excuse not to use you. And I think that's what Amazon did to blow past Walmart. Very convenient, great user experience. They're a marketplace, so the pricing, they make the vendors compete amongst themselves. And then you got ratings, you got free returns, and then Uber, put the cab business out. Well, who wants to ride in a cab when you can ride in your own car? You can see it coming, you know the price exactly before you hop in. And when you hop out, you don't have to hand a credit card or have the cabbie saying cash, cash. you know, and so it's so much better experience. And then Netflix, and I love this story. Netflix, as we all know, put Blockbuster out of business because I don't know how many times I experience that Friday, Saturday night disappointment when I go to Blockbuster and I go in the new release aisle and it's decimated. And honey, you want to watch Jaws for the seventh time? Because that's and so now, boy, all I have to do is plan one day in advance. I don't have to go anywhere. It comes to my mailbox. I don't have to go anywhere to return it. I go to my mailbox. And oh, by the way, now I don't have to pay per event. It's a subscription model, so as many as I can. But then I call it Netflix 2.0 when they came up with streaming. Well, now I don't have to plan a day in advance. How much more convenient is that? And now I can consume more for that subscription price. Okay, so the price was even better. And then the icing on the cake, which is user experience, they created their own content. Nobody can duplicate their own content. So Netflix 2.0 kept Amazon at bay. Had they not come up with streaming in their own content, I believe Amazon would have surpassed them and they would have probably never caught up. So those three companies are examples I often use of using those four, meeting the four buyer criteria, where most companies have a conscious trade-off. And I use examples like Jiffy Lube. Jiffy Lube is going to change your oil without an appointment in 15 to 20 minutes, but it's going to be a little pricey. Aldi's, you're going to get extremely low grocery prices, but by the way, bring a quarter, bring your own bags. Oh, you're not going to talk to a butcher or a baker. The experience isn't quite, there, but that's their trade-off. We're going to trade off that experience for very low prices. Nordstrom, you're going to get an unbelievable experience. Personal shoppers, beautiful stores, unbelievable merchandise, but again, very pricey. So they have to cater to those who value what they sell. Where I believe Amazon, Uber, Netflix go, hey, we cater to everybody. We don't want anybody to have an excuse not to use us.
Well, Jim, how would a business executive, a business owner, how do they think of your framework? And then it's almost like they would have to sort of retrofit their business into your framework to figure out how to best leverage it.
Yeah, well, here's what I tell them, and this is a really important part. I said, listen, you're not after some national standard. You're not trying to run a 4-minute mile or a 10-second 100-yard dash or a 2-hour marathon. It's like this. You know the old joke when you're in the woods with your buddy and you run into a bear? You don't have to be faster than the bear. You have to be faster than him. That's right. So what you're concentrating on is you have to understand what are the buyer alternatives to you. Now, could be do it yourself. If you're a car wash, hey, I can wash the car myself, okay? But in most cases, you have a competitor. So how do you stack up to that competitor on convenience, on price, on user experience, and trust, okay? And you have to beat them on those because that's what we consider to be our value. That's what's important to us. So it's not like this huge mountain you have to climb. I'll never get there. No. Tell me what your top three competitors are, and let's study them and let's beat them. Now, and I get this all the time. For example, I had a Vistage member who owned a sheet metal shop, and in their community they were unionized and their competitors weren't. And he said, Jim, I can't be price competitive with my competitors. Okay, great, I get it. But you need to overdo it on convenience, you need to overdo it on user experience, and overdo it on trust. Okay, you got you've got to, and nobody can beat Walmart's buying power. You're not going to probably price the way Walmart does. So overdo it where they have their weaknesses, like user experience, right? That's what I emphasize. You don't have to hit on all four, but you have to understand your competitors and leverage their weakness.
I love it. You had talked about Quick Trip earlier. You had mentioned that and some work that you've done, and I'm not sure that they're national across the U.S. yet, but we were just in Phoenix a couple weeks ago, and certainly they're all over Phoenix. I think they were started in Oklahoma, but if you're not familiar with Quick Trips, boy, do they set a new standard. And the thing is, it's a it's a gas station. It's a convenience store, right? And so you can't get much more commoditized, much more competitive than that, right? In any city, they're on, there's two of them on every corner. So Matt, I'd love for you to just unpack that a little bit more of what you might have found with Quick Trip, because again, you can't get any more, commoditized than that. But wow, they set a whole new standard for convenience.
Yep. Well, I use this example. Let's say you're on a trip with your wife, you're driving down the interstate, and you pull off. Every station is going to be $3.19.9. They're all going to be priced exactly the same. Well, across the interchange, let's say there's a Buc-ee's, which is an unbelievable experience, but you got to go through two lights. And on this side, there's a Quick Trip, and there's a 20-year-old Shell station. Okay, it's poorly lit, and it's a lot of clutter out front. Well, guess what your wife's going to say? I want a clean bathroom. I want the experience. Well, Quick Trip, they're extremely well lit. They keep their concrete clean. If there's a fuel spill, they're out power spraying that. The store is stocked. It's organized. The bathrooms are clean. They hit every mark. And oh, by the way, the one I really love, Quick Trip guarantees their gasoline. And you go, now how many claims have you had on your, I did hear of one. They actually pumped diesel out of a gas pump once, and they covered it. But it registers in your mind. Oh, guaranteed gasoline. Okay. So, but it's a user experience. They're going to be priced the same as everybody else, on that corner. But they got ample pumps. You don't have to wait. So that's the convenience part. The experience is awesome because it's clean, well lit. You go in, the staff is uniform. They're professional. It's just a great experience, and you're going to choose that over a 20-year-old dingy Shell station where they got the plexiglass up and you got to slip your credit card through the slot and all that stuff.
And each clerk is running 2 or 3 registers. I mean, they're all about quick, right? Getting you out, which is exactly what you want. So, great example.
Quick. Yeah, it's quick. That's the convenience, That's really their brand promise, if you think about it.
That's exactly.
It's kind of like I joke, hey, brand promise, you go, I'm Discount Liquors. Okay, well, you better be discounted, or I'm 24/7 plumbing. All right, I don't want to call on a Saturday night and nobody answers the phone. That's a bad experience, right?
Yeah. But Jim, you had talked about like product and culture and kind of having those different components as, some of the work and research that you've done. Talk to us kind of about those two big kind of cornerstone areas of business, and as business owners, business executives, what are some of those big things to think about when you think of the product services that your company offers, but also just the power that comes with having a killer culture?
Yeah, well, on the product side, again, I believe the whole experience has to be convenient. You got to price it competitively. You have to give a great user experience and trust. But also in my book, talk about product diversification, because we all have different, what I call personal value systems. My personal value system is convenience, and specifically time. I'll spend more money if you save me time. I've got a sister-in-law who lives in a small town of 15,000. 2 grocery stores and a Walmart. She clips coupons. She goes to every store every week to buy the deal. Takes her a couple hours and she saves $20. I'm not doing that. It's too much time, right? I'm doing the time deal. So from a product standpoint, I preach diversification. Have something where it takes a little more do it yourself, but you offer that product, and then you've got, hey, we'll do everything for it. It's completely turnkey on this end. But what I say is this: I can come into any company and I'll help you on the product side. I'll get you where you need to be against your competitor. But how do you sustain that? Because if you don't constantly work on the convenience, constantly work on cutting costs to have lower prices, constantly work on a better experience and trust, you're going to have competitors spring up or startups. They're going to see that weakness and start. So you have to have a culture that's constantly looking at that, and that needs to be your entire team. So I believe I'm a huge Jeff Bezos fan. He was centered everything around the customer, engineered backward, and it worked out for him, I believe. So you got to do that. I believe you have to have, and people look at me funny when I tell them this, but I believe you have to have an R&D function in every company, not department, but research and development. You need to be researching what your customers are looking for, what your competitors are doing, what new technologies can do for you, say AI, and I would centralize that in a function. I tell people, I said, I think if you're a company that has salespeople, outside salespeople, I think one of the most important things they can do for you is intelligence. Why did you win that deal? Why did we lose that deal, and act upon it? And you can be talking to your customer service people. What are you hearing from the customers? Your front counter people. So that's the culture and the processes you have to build internally to constantly be innovating. And I have a take on innovation, and it's this. I believe there's a big difference between invention and innovation. Invention comes along in a rare moon, right? Electricity, cars, planes. Most everything is innovation. And innovation to me involves I shaved a little time off that. I made it a little bit easier. I made it a little simpler. Oh, I was able to cut a little cost here. Oh, I was able to improve that experience just a little bit, or we're just now a little more trustworthy. Those are all innovations. And your people as a team should be figuring it out. What else can we do to be more convenient? What else can we do to save costs? What else can we do to provide us better user experience for the customer or be more trustworthy? And that's innovation. Keep doing that. Otherwise, you could face a competitor or a startup that you didn't see coming. And next thing you know, you're Blockbuster and they're Netflix.
Yeah, I love that, man. It's like you bring out so many cool examples, and we use a lot of that in our training and stuff as well. Um, with Uber, it just completely revolutionized that. Blockbuster completely revolutionized it. Borders Books, right? Those Borders Books unwillingness to be innovative and to understand their customers. So thank you, Jeff Bezos, right? Jeff's like, I'll run your ebook store, and then comes the Kindle, and here comes a multi-cajillion dollar business with what he's done from that. What a great example.
Oh, well, and I use this one too. I've been in businesses, some of my own, some of my others, for 40 plus years. And for the others, I never ever walked into a meeting and they said, okay, we're going to start with talking about how many customers we won last month and why, and how many customers we lost and why. Never. All the meetings are internally focused. Okay, let's talk about our revenue. Let's talk our budget. Let's talk about our costs. Oh, we missed it on here. Let's talk about our IT me, 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 me. And they fail to focus on what really drives their business, them. And I have a chapter on messaging, and and I say, look, it's not, and especially value proposition, it's not about you. Customers are only mildly interested in what it is you do. They're totally all about what their need is, what their problem is. So, and I grew up in transportation and logistics, and it was 95% me, me, me. We have 100 trucks and we cover Kansas City. I don't care. I got delivery problems. I got customer service problems. I got damages. How are you going to handle that? It's really funny how the focus is all on me instead of them.
Yeah. And whenever you get those annoying cold outreach emails come across and you read them, what's, first 3 or 4 words? Hey, we are it's them. And what do you say? Well, I don't give a shit about you. I'm worried about my business. What about me? So
Exactly.
true. So true.
Exactly.
Well, Jim, I
Exactly.
appreciate this conversation so much. Thank you for carving out time. Like I said, I've really enjoyed getting to know you and look forward to continuing our collaboration, our work that we're going to be doing into the future.
Hi, Mark. I love what you're doing. I love your philosophies. It's right on. So good for you. Thanks for doing this and thanks for having me.
Well, thanks, Jim.
Thanks for joining us for this week's episode of the Partnernomics Show. Don't forget to subscribe to get the newest episodes at thepartnernomicsshow.com.